Okay, welcome to North Country Beekeepers June chat. I would like to acknowledge we've got two speakers tonight. Dorinda Priebe is our EAS director for New Hampshire. She's going to be speaking about the upcoming EAS conference. And Dave Priebe is here, and he is our New Hampshire bee inspector, and he's going to be speaking about American foul brood and anything else that's going on in the inspection world that he thinks we should know about. So I'm going to start right away without further ado and ask Dorinda to take the floor, because ladies first.
Yeah, good. I agree.
Oh, that's really nice, Jan. I could try to screen share. Let me see if I
Okay,
can even show you slides.
I think I have to make you a co-host first. There.
Yeah, I have no idea if this will be successful or not.
Don't know until you try.
That's right.
We can
Looks
see
good.
it.
Yep.
Tickety boo.
That's very British.
Actually, I think it's more Canadian, but yeah, maybe it is British. I don't know.
There we go. I'm not getting any audio from Dorinda.
She's muted. I just told her she was muted, but there you go.
Yes.
There we
Thank you
go.
for unmuting. It wouldn't let me unmute. So thank you, whoever is behind these scenes. What I'd like to do is just show you the slideshow without showing you anything else, but for some reason it won't let us do that. So please ignore the running bar on the left-hand side of our screen if that's what you can see. So a EAS conference is coming right up. We've got 7 weeks to go, July 31st through August 4th. What's important to understand is if you are an EAS member, you will have been receiving updates, which is important, but it's important to know that you need to register for the conference if you're going by July 1st, even though we have some weeks to go, and they're looking forward to us registering. So our theme is past, present, and beyond. And they're very excited for us to come. And we think Massachusetts, but it is way over here in Amherst. It is still a ways, but it's the closest it's going to be for a while. The following year, 2024, will be in Maryland, and 2025 will be in Michigan. So this is nice and close for all of you to come for either 2 days of conference, rather 2 days of short course and 3 days of conference, or 1 day, or whatever you'd like to do, please come. We are neck and neck with Maine in our registrations, 18 from New Hampshire and 18 from Maine. We'd like to break out and be ahead of Maine. That would be delightful. So this is how far you'll have to travel to get there if you are far away. There are airports if you're flying. I don't know where anybody will be. This just looks so urban, but actually when you get there, this is very much an agricultural college, and I think you'll feel at home there. The amenities are beautiful. You can stay right in the campus hotel if you want to, or in a number of other hotels that are listed in the guide, which is now in the Spring Journal, which is available online to members. They're going to have some fantastic trips to take you out to see the sights of the area. This is what our dorm, and do know that there are dorms. There is also camping. Now, what they keep telling us is how good the food is going to be. I can't wait to have their food. It sounds like it is marvelous. I do want to let you know that as far as the special programs that are offered, like microscopy and apitherapy. The cooking with honey is closed. Unfortunately, that class is full. But that doesn't mean that you won't get a good flavor for cooking with honey while you're there. You will. So here we are. The apiary on campus is the state apiary for Massachusetts, and you'll see lots of exciting things going on there between their bee team, MDR, and also our usual bee wranglers, Don Hopkins and Jennifer. So lots of things going on in the apiary every day, an apiary track that you don't have to sign up for separately. This was some of the latest speakers as of fall. Of course, there are a lot more since then, and many of these will be familiar to you. When you go on, you will see a preliminary schedule in the journal. Keep in mind that this is subject to change, not only between now and the conference, but even day to day, which is why they offer a daily waggle so that you know exactly where the courses are. But I encourage you, if you're going, to kind of track your course and map out what you want to see, divide and conquer if necessary with people in your group, and share. Some of these special events, of course, you can always go to the Mass State Apiary, but the garden tour of UMass, some of the field trips, not all of these are available at all times. So go online when you register, see what that's all about. Bee Olympics, of course, everybody will be involved. If you're bringing children, very important to know it's a beautiful program that we offer for kids. They have a blast and they're safe as well. These are the scenic tours, Historic Deerfield, Yankee Candle, and the Bridge of Flowers. If you get to go to the commercial extracting operation, they're having one session in the morning, one session in the afternoon. You would pick one or the other. It's $25 to go. If you pick to go out for the day long, which includes the Bridge of Flowers, that's $50 for the day, and you are gone the whole day. You'll get to see that too in the schedule. Workshops, I do know that there's still some room in apitherapy. There's still some room in microscopy. The others are full, but they will be very good. Note to self about the honey judging. Even though there is a workshop on honey judging, you don't go through the workshop and come back a honey judge. It's simply to help you understand what it takes to become a honey judge. And it would be excellent. It is closed, but we have some great presenters that are going to be working with us to try to bring some good information to New Hampshire, because we do need some honey judges. But the EAS Honey Show, open to all. Please read all of the instructions on entries very carefully, because it's critical that you follow all of the instructions in order to enter. It will be beautiful, and I hope that some of our beekeepers from New Hampshire will be in on this. It's not just honey. You'll see all the categories when you look online, including mead, craft projects, wax, lots of things in the Honey Show. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. Here's some more pictures from the Honey Show. You'll see the creamed honey. You see the chunk honey. You'll see Michael Palmer down in the corner looking at things. He's been so instrumental in keeping this alive and strong at EAS. More beautiful pictures, so really depicting all the varieties of honey. Got some Gadget. Don't forget Gadget. That's important. This year, I do know that the black jar honey is probably going to be judged by EAS Master Beekeepers. That's where you can't see the honey at all. It's going to be a completely dark jar, and that ought to be fun. So it's based on taste alone. We will be having our annual EAS Master Beekeeper certification exams, written, oral, lab, and field, and that will take place on Tuesday and Wednesday all day. You won't see much of Master Beekeepers on those days. Oh, in the vendor hall, you are going to be in for a treat with some vendors you've never even seen before, including this year some local artisans who may be there for only even one day, maybe not the entire time, but that's unusual. It's usually mostly major beekeeping. So this year will be a little bit different, with a little emphasis on local arts and crafts, which ought to be wonderful. At our evening socials, we'll have dinner with Reverend Langstruth, right? So on Wednesday night, there'll be a social, and Thursday night, there'll be a beautiful social where we will be auctioning off the state baskets. One of ours has been donated to us by Mary Ellen's friend who has her company, and just a fine representation of every state. It's a whole lot of fun and a lot of ridiculousness. And Friday night is much more serious, where awards and presentations will be given. EAS Master Beekeepers will receive their certificates, as sometimes also our life members, but we'll see. Sometimes that happens at the life member luncheon. They do encourage you to explore Western Massachusetts and even include some travel while you're there, either before or after the conference, and they provide lots of material if you're unfamiliar with the area and the beauty there, so you can tie things together while giving you a taste during the conference. So we're focusing a lot this year on Lorenzo Langstreth because, of course, this was an area where he once lived, and we all know some of the special attributes of Reverend Langstreth, and we'll learn more of them when we are there. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the Greenfield bee sculptures, but they're quite famous and quite beautiful. That will be part of one of the tours. Of course, this is what it looks like in the fall, but it is beautiful year-round. Please come for a day. A short course at the beginning of the week is always wonderful because it's all fundamental beekeeping. At the conference, you're going to also see award recipients who will be talking about some of the work that they've done, as well as some of our major researchers. And these are some of the quotes of people that loved being there, of course. So here it is, once again, July 31st through August 4th. Beautiful. Go online, get signed up, and I'm available to take questions. Now, I do want to unshare here so I can get back to you.
Dorinda, can you explain the difference in the tracks?
I sure can, Jan. Thank you for asking about that. So I have right here my EAS Spring Journal. And if you go online and you are a member, you can see these tracks. When you start on Monday morning with short course, they have the microscopy, which is private. And then, of course, they have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Then they have apiary, and they're also having a queen rearing workshop. So at any one time, there are multiple things going on, but feel free to move between beginner and intermediate and advanced. It really isn't how advanced you are, but what kind of topics you are most interested in. And that's the same on Monday and on Tuesday as far as those tracks, Jan. Some of the advanced topics this year include hive products on Monday and the business of beekeeping on Tuesday, which is quite interesting, I think. And that's also when they're having the introduction to honey show judging. But when you get into main conference, that is different. Everyone's together when we begin that day, because introductions are given at 8:30, and then we begin with some of the major speakers like Dr. Tammy Horn-Potter will be talking about the history of bees in the US, and that's the only thing that's going on from 9:25 to 10. Breakouts don't start until the afternoon, when you will have other tracks such as the past, bee health, and queens, and breeding and rearing, apitherapy, and what's going on with the master beekeepers. Same thing on Thursday morning. You will have, starting right off, always with the Hamilton Award winner, which this year is Dr. Michael Simone Finstrom, and he's going to be talking on harnessing genetic tools to combat honeybee stressors. That'll be fabulous. And Dr. Judy Woosmart will be there too, talking about systemic pesticide pollution and the implications for beekeepers, which is always something that we talk about. So on these days when we have that kind of thing, we meet together in the morning for big sessions. We break out in the afternoon into present, bee health, bee behavior, and some of the private tracks. So this follows right through into Friday, when Dr. Sam Ramsey will be talking at 9:45 on what's next. So do expect that will happen. The annual EAS business meeting takes place on Friday. So we have a barbecue on Wednesday night, an auction on Thursday night, and then main beautiful formal banquet on Friday, when we will meet for the very last time before we have to leave for the next year. Other questions? These have been good questions so far, Jan. How do you register? You go online and you can register by paper registration, or you can register electronically. You're urged to set up an account, and this will be through Wild Apricot, where your information is so secure I can't even get to it as your director. So I don't know who is a member in New Hampshire and who isn't, and who's paid dues and not. It's none of my business except to urge you to keep your memberships up and to ask any questions that you need to about the conference itself. There is a way to volunteer if you're interested, and that will be right in the registration itself. If you're interested in becoming a volunteer and what areas you might be interested in, that will all be on there. Any other good questions? I really hope that people will decide to come down for a day or two or the whole week. It's so exciting to be together. As David often says, going to EAS will change your life if you haven't been. And once you've been, you'll say, yes, that changed my life to be with all those other beekeepers. And you'll make friends for life too, people that you just can't wait to see again. And I hope that people will take advantage of that and go, what else can I do for you while I'm here? Before we turn it over to our apiary inspector.
Sam asked how you sign up for the dinners. You can do that right online, Sam.
That's right. So this year we have a kind of a different registration. Thank you for asking that, Sam. It's two-part. When you first sign up on the first page, that's all of the classes that you want to take. And then you have to go to the main page, because that's accessed only by members, and you have to become a member in order to sign up. So if you're already a member and keeping up with your dues, great. If you need to become a member in order to sign up, you become a member, and then you go to the events page, and then you can see where to sign up and how you sign up. They're doing something a little differently this year. You can go to the cafeteria and pay with cash or a card, or you can also pick up a $25 or a $50, like a student card, like the students use on, just to make it faster, not have to handle money any other way. But it's perfectly okay not to purchase the meals card if you don't want to. But as far as the dinners, it's a la carte. Pay for the ones that you want to attend. Thank you for asking that. That's excellent.
Do you know how much the meals are and how much meal cards that would be appropriate?
Well, I don't know. I chose not to purchase one, to tell you the truth. I just said to myself, I have no idea if I'm going to need $25 or $50. I think I'm just going to kind of go as I want to, because while we have the cafeteria and we could use that, there's a whole list in the spring guide of places that you can eat on and slightly off campus. And some people may decide to do that as well. And some people may decide to pack their own lunch, depending on what they're doing and where they're going to be. So I'm sorry I can't really offer much about how much it's going to cost. I would imagine it's like anywhere. I don't know how you can get out of having lunch anywhere for less than $10 to $15. I'd like to think it's less because we're on campus, but we haven't been given any guidelines with that. I'm sorry, I can't be more helpful with that. But if I find out, I'll send something right to Janice and she can share it with you. Other good questions. And if you have already registered, just go to the events page. You're already registered and add whatever you want to. Your registration is basically open to add to until July 1st. So that is a very good question. Thank you.
I can vouch for the fact that if you choose to go, you will not be disappointed.
Thank you for that endorsement, Jan.
No,
I know you've loved it.
Yeah,
we do too.
Joe and I really enjoy them. So
yes,
you do learn a lot.
You
and
learn
a lot of
lot.
cutting edge. You learn a lot of history. You learn a lot of background, but you're also listening to speakers that are right on the cutting edge of all their research. And you get to hear it from them first, a lot of times even before their papers are published. So it's great.
That is it exactly. The day that the students present, it is amazing because, like Jan says, they're may not even be done. And it's some of them have some pretty wild experiments that they like to share with us, but it's really good to see where their minds are going. So I hope to see many of you there. And really, you can shoot me an email anytime, and I would be glad to follow up with you.
Thank you,
And
Dorinda.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me tonight so much.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions before we move on to her partner in crime? Okay, Dave Priebe, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a good day. I got a slideshow here that I'd like to share with you. So there's been a lot of discussion this year about American foul brood. I think that's driven primarily by the number of detections that have happened in Massachusetts. So I've been asked to speak a number of times on American foul brood and on brood diseases in general too. But so this particular set of slides is was taken from my brood disease talk and is just specific to American foul brood. And what I'm going to share with you tonight is how I think about it, you know, how I organize the topics in my mind. And so there's a generalization on any brood disease, but we're gonna look specifically at American foul brood tonight. And so you can see what's going to come at you here. You know, how do we characterize it? How do we detect it? What's its life history? And what do we do with it if we find it? And the picture here is a case in New Hampshire a few years back. That comb has an active infection on it, and you can see that I've taken a core to send to Beltsville to be cultured. You do that with a 3-inch hole saw that I run in reverse, so the hole saw doesn't walk. You know, you get a really nice clean cut on the core to send it for Beltsville. Okay, so very, very 30,000-foot view, you know, big picture view. You know, we think about our ecosystems and all the pressures, and we think about our bee colonies, and you know, what are all the things that are putting pressures on them, you know. And you can see here what I've listed: mammals, insects, you know, the beekeeper, humans, pathogens, and then, but there's some that are unlabeled, and you might be able to label some of those boxes yourself. You know, we can think about the things that are living, the biotic pressures, right? Things that are alive. But we can also think about abiotic stressors, you know. And certainly we have the weather, and there's toxins and other things. But there's a whole array of things that put pressure not only on bee colonies, but of course on every life form that are in the system. But tonight we're gonna look at this red bubble, and we're gonna look specifically in here on at American foul brood. But it's important to have the, you know, a real generalized picture in your mind, and I'm sure a lot of you do. And so, you know, before we go forward, it's also fundamental to understand really what's at the core of your management to be successful. Of course, there's many things, but these are really the primary 5 things that you have to have in place to have success as a beekeeper. And 3 of these are Langstroths, and one of them is Dr. Ferrara at the University of Massachusetts, where we'll be just in a few weeks here. And then the 4th one, the 5th one is Dr. Clarence Carlson. So, you know, you have to have a good queen, right? Think about this. Think about this. You know, look at these. You know, this is what you need. You need a good queen. You need a good hive. You need a good population. You need some protection for them. They got to have food. They can't be sick. And you can't do anything to them that's going to mess them up, right? Your management all has to align with what they need. And so your management So there's the 5 principles. This is something Dorinda and I, this is what we use when we organize our thinking, and this is what we use when we consult with beekeepers. And we always check ourselves that we cover all these cases. But tonight we're looking into the disease-free condition bubble here, too, right? Specifically American foul brood. Okay. Let's characterize this disease, right? It's a spore-forming bacteria. It's a pathogen of the honeybee larva, right? It's a brood disease. It's the immature bees. It infects bee larvae less than about 2.5 days old. And it could infect, worker queen or drone larva, right? But it's spore forming. It's global in scale. It's everywhere. And it's microscopic in level, right? It's a worldwide pathogen, microbe. What makes this particularly nasty is that these spores are extremely durable. And they remain viable, oh boy, many decades, probably indefinitely. We don't really know how long the spores remain in the system viable. I know Cornell had to take it out and culture it every year, and they'd got to like 70 years. I'm not sure if they're still doing it or not, but in my thinking, it's okay. They just persist forever. So, I had a chance to sit down with Dr. Dewey Karen, who was my honeybee biology professor, and I said, where American foul brood, where is it? He said, Dave, it's in the system. And that really made me think, the spores are in the ecosystem. But where are they primarily? These infectious spores? Well, they're on or in the comb, wax, honey, bees, the equipment, etc. Right? They're in the system. At the latter progression of the disease, the diseased larva desiccates. And this infected brood in the comb is a primary reservoir of spores. American foul brood will kill brood, it kills around 11 days old. Versus European foul brood. European foul brood is the fastest killing brood disease. It normally kills a few days. AFB kills just around its capped or when it's capped. It kills the brood, but it eventually, as the infection increases, more and more brood gets infected. It's killing brood on the individual level, but it eventually will kill at the colony level because the colony just becomes really weakened. So as an inspector or as beekeepers, you gotta, how do you find it? What do you do? How do you detect it? Well, if you look at the right of this slide, I have a box there that talks about the live colony. And you have uncapped brood and capped brood. So here's something that's really important for beekeepers to keep in mind. When you're doing your inspections and you're looking at uncapped brood, it should be pearly white and glistening. That's how you can train your eye to look at the open brood, the uncapped brood, quickly. And you're just looking for anything that's not white. And anything that's not white, you need to take a closer look. So that's for uncapped brood. As I just said, American foul brood kills just before it's capped or after it's capped. So healthy capped brood is uniform, right? Slightly convexed. You should see a consistent distribution of the capped brood. on your brood frames. And it should be uniform in its appearance. If it's sunken or wet looking or perforated, you need to take a closer look. So in the field, what do you do in the field for detection? Well, you're going to use your senses, right? You're looking at it primarily it's your sight. But they call these foul broods because depending on the state of the decomposition of the diseased immature bee, it could put off an odor. An American foul brood is a pretty distinct odor. Once you've smelled it, you would remember it. There's lots of descriptions about it, what it smells like, but you'll know when you smell it that something's really not right in the colony. And of course, smell is a little bit subjective, like taste, but it is a foul odor. And so you're looking for it. You can smell it. Something else you can do with your sight is you can do the Ropey test. We'll take a look on the next slide. I'll show you that. So you use your senses in the field, but then there's also chemistry you can use in the field. You can use the Vita test kits. They're called lateral flow devices. You've probably seen them, the Vita test kits, or you could use the Holst milk test, which is what I use. I don't have budget to buy the test kits. The test kits expire, and I think for in-field detection, it's just fine. Normally, we're not going to go to chemistry unless we can see we're sensing clinical symptoms, right? We're seeing it, and then we'll confirm it with chemistry because that's not based on our senses, right? So in the laboratory, of course, there's a number of things they could do. You can examine under the microscope with American foul brood at USDA Beltsville. They actually grow it. That's how you know it's infectious. They'll take a sample, scrape the spores off, put it in a culture, and grow it in a petri dish. And then there's molecular analysis, which is what Massachusetts is doing. The National Agricultural Genomics Center out in Fargo, North Dakota. They will look for pieces of the DNA in molecular analysis. So there's detection, and of course there's other chemistry. There's other things it can do in the laboratory. I just list the big ones here. American foul brood in New Hampshire, it is a regulated pest, and it must be reported if suspected. Why? Because it's an infectious disease, and it will benefit you because we're going to work together to make the best decisions for your apiary and for your bees to deal with the American foul brood. And we will also notify any beekeepers that we're aware of in the neighborhood, in the locale. So here we got a picture of nice, healthy, capped worker brood, right? Uniform, compacts, nice looking brood frame. Here's a picture of.
We're not seeing that picture, Dave.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh, sorry, just took a while to paint. Did you see the healthy brood? I'll go back. Okay, capped worker brood, healthy. Is that showing up?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, take a look at it. We've all seen good, healthy capped brood. So now I'm going to go to the next slide. This is American foul brood. What you see on the left of the picture is sunken, off-color, wet, greasy, perforated cappings. That is very, very strong indication of American foul brood. And so what you do is, if you see that, you would do a ropiness test. See the matchstick on the right, sorry. the decaying larva becomes very, very viscous, very glue-like. And so if you take a matchstick and you stick it in the cell and you stir the contents of the cell up and slowly draw the matchstick out, you can see it's roping out to a couple centimeters. And then if you keep pulling, it'll just snap back. That very, very strong indications of American foul brood infection. And so you can see how you could sense it. You know, if we were looking at this frame, we could all put our nose close and probably be malodorous too. You probably have that stinky, dirty socks. It's hard to describe. It's a very unique foul odor that the decaying larvae make when they're being consumed by this bacteria. So there's a little bit on detection. Now let's spend a little time about this. You know, you think about in biology, you know, no matter what the subject is or what the life form is, they have some life history, right? And so here's how I describe the American foul brood life history. So let's go through it, top to bottom. So we have these spores that are in the system, right? Where are they? As we said, they're in or on the equipment, the combs, they're on the bees, they're in the bees. Keep in mind that American foul brood does not infect the adults, but the adults could move it. They could pick it up, ingest it, move it. So the AFB spores are fed to larvae by nurse bees. So somehow the nurses come in contact with the spores. They could be cleaning cells. They could be sharing food. Somehow they could pick it up in the honey. Somehow they come in contact with these spores and they feed it to the larva. So now in the yellow box, you know, with any infectious disease, there has to be some susceptibility, right? There's susceptibility criteria. And AFB is only going to infect the very young larva, less than about 2.5 days old. And so the spores enter the larva as the larva is consuming the larval food in the cell. The spores vegetate. So that means they burst open and they grow into this, like, it looks like a root system structure. And the vegetative state penetrates through the linings and the tissues and goes throughout the entire larva and consumes the larva. So it grows, and at a certain stage, the vegetative state will end and it will form spores, more spores. At about 11 days old, the larva will succumb to the infection, and at some point it will desiccate and it'll dry and it'll form that really sticky black scale that adheres to the bottom and the back of the cell. Like, they call it melting down brood. So if we go back to detection, you know, in the field, like if I'm doing inspections, my protocol when I'm going into apiaries now is to inspect the dead out equipment. It's relatively quick to inspect dead out equipment, and I could find scale. And so beekeepers are usually surprised that I want to look at the dead outs, but if I find any evidence of AFB, then the whole apiary is suspected, right? Is suspect. So then we got to look at everything. So I might as well look at, you know, the most likely places, you know. So we'll inspect. I would inspect the dead out equipment and look at the brood combs specifically, and you hold it from the top bars and you look at the bottom of the cells. Now, something else you can use if conditions are right, you can use ultraviolet light. I have a little UV light, and if it's not too bright out, the scale will fluoresce a little bit. But really, I rely on my eyes and looking at the bottom of the brood cells. I want to see them nice and uniform on the whole, all of the brood combs. And you can look at them pretty quick. Once you've seen it, your eye will pick up imperfections on the bottoms of the cells. And anything that looks a little weird to you or not correct or unusual, get your toothpick out, get your matchstick out, see if you can move it, see if you can remove it, see if you can identify it. AFB spores, they're moved primarily. I think about this. So, what's the transmission path? How do the spores move? How do colonies get infected? Now, spores are moved primarily by worker bees and by the beekeeper. And in fact, scale infected combs are moved exclusively by the beekeeper. The bees don't move frames. Beekeepers do. And so it becomes very, very important to avoid used equipment that you don't, combs you don't know the history of. That's something else I'll do when I inspect. We did Troy Hall's apiaries early on. It's like, Troy, are these all your combs? Did your bees make all this wax? He said, yeah, Dave. I said, did you buy any equipment? Did you buy any combs? Or no. So that, for me, that there's a level of reassurance here. Of course, Troy is a knowledgeable beekeeper. He knows what brood diseases look like, but that would be one of the first things we ask, and that's what we ask when we do consult calls too, because then we get concerned when the beekeeper said, no, I bought some used equipment, or I had some equipment given to me, or so now we're like, okay, we don't know the history of the combs, and now we know that American foul brood is moved by the beekeeper, and so we become more suspect. We want to ask more questions and get a look on combs that the history is not known by the beekeeper. Questions?
I have a question.
Please.
I already know the answer, but I think it's good for the group to know.
Thank you.
Is it required if someone is buying a nucleus colony or used equipment from out of state for it to be inspected before it comes into our state?
Yeah, good question. Yes, in New Hampshire, the rules are that any bees or used equipment entering the state must have a certificate of inspection. If it doesn't, it must be inspected by me. Why? Because we're trying to prevent the movement of AFB. That's really what we're after.
How about equipment within the state?
No, if it moves around in the state, it's not required to be inspected. I'll do it.
Starsha had a great question. How recently does it have to be inspected?
It has to be inspected when it's moved into the state.
So does that mean like within a week of it being moved into the state, or?
Yeah, normally it's around, normally the certificates, if they're inspected at the site of origin, the certificates are written for 30 days.
Okay.
Be good for 30 days. That's typically what I write them for, unless, I'll work with the beekeeper, Jan, if you're moving bees and you're not quite sure of your schedule or the weather, and we look at the bees and we don't see any major issues, I can give you more time if you need it. But normally normally it's going to be, 30 days, then the certificate would expire. But if the used equipment had been inspected, then you can move it into the state of New Hampshire. Yeah, there's, if so I guess what Sarsha's asking now I'm kind of getting it here. She's saying, well, what if it was inspected in Massachusetts and the certificate was written for 30 days on used equipment, and then the 30 days expired? Would that still be okay? Well, probably would if you hadn't put bees on the equipment. I doubt anything's changed on it. But if there's any question, just give me a call. Just call New Hampshire APA. We'll talk about it. We're not looking to have impedance, right? Our mission is to protect and promote. We're here to aid agriculture in New Hampshire, and so we're going to work with you in doing that. So, yeah, good questions.
Kate wanted to know if you're going to describe in detail the technique of the milk test, which I know you're going to talk a little bit about that.
I can talk about it.
Okay.
And maybe I can dig out a picture. Let's move on and just,
Okay.
I'll go back to that. We'll talk about Holt's milk test, and I'll give you some link. But let's look here at the last slide, and then I have a slide on the AFB vaccine too. We can talk about that if you'd like, Jan, too. So on this last
We haven't had
slide on
enough?
on this last slide, so something that Dr. Carlson taught us, to maintain populous colonies. We talk about, oh, my colony's really strong, and Dorinda and I, we always, well, what is the measure for strong? Well, it's really, how many seams of bees, if you look at your colony in the top bars, how many seams of bees are you looking, how many bees are covering your frames, strong is a little bit subjective, but so I reword it, say, look, you want to have populous colonies. Why? Now, Dr. Carlson taught this, and this is a fundamental thing too in beekeeping. Why? Because at the colony level, colonies are able to overcome a lot of conditions because there's strength in numbers. Avoid used equipment. Of course, we know where are the spores. Dorinda and I ask ourselves that all the time. Where are the spores? Where's the pathogens? Where's the bacteria? How do they move around? Well, certainly we said they're in and on the bees. So robbing behavior, if I come and inspect the apiary and there's a lot of leaky equipment, we'll probably talk about that. Keep good solid equipment. Maintain your entrances correctly seasonally, depending on what your management is on the colony. If you're feeding, you should always reduce your entrance to assist the bees, and avoid robbing, because that can lead to disease transmission. And then, of course, your sanitary apiary practices, on the beekeeper, on the equipment, on the tools, on the, know the state of your colonies and clean your hive tools. So what Dave does in the field, doing inspections, I have a small ash can, and on the cover of the ash can, I carry a MAP gas torch, and I have a number of hive tools that I rotate through. And so I'll burn the tools with a MAP gas torch and scrape them down, wipe them with a pharmaceutical grade disinfectant cloth. And you got to have 3 or 4 tools, because the tools get really, really hot. And so that's how and then of course, nitrile gloves, we rotate through the gloves too, so that we're not.
Someone asked, does AFB live in places not associated with honeybees, like in the dirt?
Good question. Don't know. It's in the system, right? It's in the ecosystem. Could spores wind up on flowers? Sure, they could. Could it be in the ground? Well, as Dr. Karen said, Dave, it's in the system. So think about that. It's,
That means you're closed too, doesn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it could get on you. Yeah.
And that
Okay.
means if you wear the same clothes into your car, it's going to get on your upholstery in your car.
It could. It could.
It could.
Now it's typically not, you have to contact it, right?
Right.
Right. You have to contact it. So, if you're not putting frames in your pocket, infected frames in your pockets, our Dorinda does a wonderful job with our bee suits in the washer and dryer we have, and she could speak to it. They have these steam disinfecting cycles, and we spoke out at Keosar's Beekeepers on Saturday, and they were surprised how clean our bee suits are. It's like, well, we have to keep our suits clean, and so Dorinda does a spectacular job keeping those sanitary. So just do the best you can with them, and keep in mind that in the medical world they call it the chain of asepsis, right? Everything you touch, you could be contaminating. So
Right.
we want to break that. Yeah, Jan.
April wants to know if you can describe what the first signs of AFB are.
You might see dead larvae right at the very end of the larval development, just before they were going to be capped, and they would be dead, and they would look melting, like they're melting down on the bottom of the cell. That's what you'd see. You may only see a few of them too, right? Think about how infection starts with anything. It starts in one cell, 2 cells, right? And then gets bigger, right? As the infection spreads. So as beekeepers, train yourself to look for things that are abnormal. And if you need to contact New Hampshire apiary, just call Pierre and she'll dispatch, or you can call me direct. We'll always talk to any beekeeper at any time. If I think I should be getting paid for our conversation, I'll have you just ping Pierre or two, and she'll be fine with it. But Pierre is also keeping track of the calls that are coming in. So she wants to be looped in and see what's going on too, because you got a whole team here too. So she's watching what's happening and can bring other resources to bear if they need be. So, but yeah, where are the spores? That's what Dorinda and I ask all the time. Where are they? Where are they? Primarily in the bees, on the bees, on beekeeping related equipment, products, combs, honey, pollen. Yeah, primarily. So in New Hampshire, we talk about prevention, and that's really what we want to be doing, is preventing, right? The treatment is destruct. So how do we do it? Well, if we identify an infection, we close the colony off, we inspect the entire apiary, we take samples, we send them to Beltsville, the USDA bee lab in Beltsville. Sam Abham will culture it. He'll confirm from the laboratory that's American foul brood. Now we don't have to wait, we don't have to wait for Beltsville to confirm American foul brood. I mean, if we are seeing it and we've done our field chemistry, we have a very, very strong set of evidence that we have American foul brood in our hands. We can act immediately and just let Beltsville confirm what we know they're going to. But what we do under my supervision is we will destroy the colony and the equipment, and there's a whole protocol for burning it. And any destruction in the state of New Hampshire, it's all at the beekeeper's expense. So If we had to burn, we'd contact the fire chief and would tell him what we're up to and have him okay it. If you're keeping bees in you know, the AFB hives or some of the the injected molded plastic stuff, and now we have a little bigger problem. It's probably going to be a little more expensive for you to have those destroyed. And of course, with AFB being in people's minds, I've been getting all the questions. Well, can we disinfect it? Can we, and yeah, you can, but that's an additional expense at the beekeeper too, with approved disinfection methods, irradiation or ethylene oxide. There's a number of things you could do, but it becomes not cost justifiable. And so typically if it's not just woodenware, primarily woodenware, then they would have to go to the incineration facility. Okay, the Holst milk test. The best description I found for Holst milk test is by the USDA. Penn State Extension has a good description too. I point people there. The USDA has a white paper. You can find it easy enough. Just with your pocket computer or your home computer, you can just Google it up, and it describes exactly the number of milliliters of not that powdered milk and how much water, mix it, and when you do the test in the field, the American foul brood spores produce an enzyme, and the enzyme, this is the chemistry, right? The enzyme consumes the protein in the milk quite rapidly. So when you mix up a little bit of powdered milk, I have one in a little vial, right? This is what I carry with me. This doesn't have any powdered milk in a little vial, little cap on it. And then you take your matchstick and you want to find scale. So if you're looking at scale in the comb, that's good. You can scrape out a few of them, right? Agitate it well, scrape it out, put it in the vial with your powdered milk solution, and incubate it in your pocket for about 20 minutes. If you're looking at larva or pupa, then you want to do the same thing. You want to blend it a little bit in the cell, break it up, break it down, mix it. Why? Because you want to get the spores released, because the spores are what is going, it has the enzyme that's going to consume the milk proteins, and the milk will turn from white towards, apple cider looking. Very distinct. You get a positive, it's very, very distinct. So there's a little bit on the Holst milk test. It's great that the powdered milk doesn't expire. Really, to do it well, you got to have some little vials or little test tubes, or if you do it in too big a vessel, probably not going to work so well. All the descriptions show test tubes or vials when you do it. That's what I use. And it's just great to have in your kit. Anything you look suspect, it just gives you peace of mind. So we do it quite often, just because we see something suspect, we give it a try.
Quick question, Dave.
Please.
This is Hank Cody. What's the frequency? How often are you on an annual basis discovering foul brood in New Hampshire?
Oh, we're not. I think the last case we had was 3 years ago.
Fantastic. Okay. That's
3 years ago.
a little sigh of relief. Good.
Yeah,
That's
but keep in mind, Hank, that it's in the system. Dr. Collison would say, and he taught us 1 to 2% of colonies
right. I get it.
probably are expressing some symptom. Now, you may not
If it-
detect it, right? You may not detect it. You may not see it. Strong colony may be able to overcome it.
So usually it's a weakened state of a colony, or maybe the startup of a colony.
I'd be careful.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah, keep
careful trying to
track.
characterize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in. Thank you.
Yeah. You get it, right?
Yeah, I
It's an infection. And so if the infection, yeah,
Perfect.
that's why Dr. Carlson said maintain populous colonies,
Um,
Of course, it's good for the beekeeper too. Yeah, Jan.
Kate asked, what about European foul brood in New Hampshire?
European foul brood's found quite regularly in New Hampshire. Yeah. Yeah, European foul brood is found quite regular. In fact, we found a little bit at the Kearsarge apiary. In fact, you probably, if you look probably every beekeeper at some point is going to have European foul brood. European foul brood classically is seasonally, expresses seasonally, typically in the spring or late spring. And, it's described as, a stress disease. Think about what might be stressing a colony. Maybe many days without being able to fly, or any number of stressors, maybe just on a monoculture, the scientists have been looking why there's so much EFB expression in blueberry pollination. No good real answers to it, but it's a stressor. Honeybees working blueberries, it's those little flowers are tough on them. But so yeah, European foul brood occurs. You could see it. If you see it, you can give us a call. We can talk about how you might respond to it or manage it. You want to send a sample to Beltsville, get a confirmation. You can treat it with antibiotics, but then you need a veterinary feed directive to get the antibiotics, right? We're trying to minimize the use of antibiotics because we're creating superbugs with the overuse and over application of antibiotics. We've selected for antibiotic resistant microorganisms. And so the whole medical community in general is being more and more careful with applications of antibiotics. So for the beekeeper,
Right.
what we'd want to do is, apply cultural practices, remove the infected larva, remove the combs, close the colony up, reduce the cavity, feed the bees, reduce the entrance, whenever, as Dorinda says, if something's sick, put it in bed and feed it, so make
Right,
sure
and
that
when we go on nectar flow too, doesn't that make a difference? It's gonna help them.
it
When the
it
nectar
could,
flows come in,
it could,
it's gonna make them stronger.
it's described a couple ways, but yeah, that could help them. Yes. I mean, and you could requeen them too, which would give them a little bit of time in the brood rearing. If you introduce a new queen, you'd give them a few days that there would be no egg laying, where the workforce could attend to the infected larva and remove it. But European foul brood can clear, just really spontaneously, or it can persist. As with any infectious disease, there's a number of subspecies, right? The Panabacillus larva, the American foul brood, has a number of different subspecies, as does the European foul brood, and there are, I believe that there are subspecies of the European foul brood that are more that are more persistent, that are more virulent, that don't respond like the classic descriptions of European foul brood. Certainly Dorinda could add to this also, as we've managed European foul brood in our colonies on and off for a number of years. So it's not unusual for the beekeeper to have it. it's just something else you have to learn, recognize, and manage.
Starsha asked, how reliable is the rope test compared to the milk test?
Oh, rope test would be good. Yeah. You'd want to try, you'd want to see both. I mean, if you were seeing those, if you were seeing like the picture I had of those infected capped brood, the pupa that's in there, they're going to rope. You stir that up, they're probably going to rope. The ropiness does occur at a certain point in the decomposition of the immature bee, right? So if you suspect, you try a number of different cells. Keep going, keep probing, keep testing. But so
I might add, just because of just what David said, and to build on that, just because it doesn't rope doesn't mean it's not AFB.
Right.
It may not be at that certain stage of death and decomposition. If you've got dead larvae and you don't know what it is, perform a chemical test. So in that way, the proteolytic enzyme from the bacteria is going to be more, it's going to be more conclusive than ropiness. So to me, even if it doesn't rope out, if it's nasty and dead, I'm going to put it in a jar with some milk and find out if it's going to clear or not.
yeah, and send some to Beltsville.
Do it. And of course, always back it up.
Yeah.
Because they're going to culture it and look at it under the microscope. So
Yeah.
we don't say, well, it didn't clear, so we won't send it. We do all of those things, and it's described pretty well on the Penn State website, one step after another. So these are all of the things that we're going to put in place to be sure that we're not making a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Well, you want to talk a little bit about the AFB vaccine?
Sure.
Yeah, we could do that. So there's a company, Dallin, it's pronounced Dallin Animal Health, down in Georgia. And they worked with the University of Georgia and Dr. Delaplane. And they have developed a vaccine for American foul brood. And the way that they describe the vaccine working is they take the American foul brood. Now, I don't know if it's in the vegetative state or if it's in the spore forming state or both, but they denature it, means they kill it with heat, and then they pulverize it, break it into little bits. They make something called a bactrim. That's a general medical term for vaccines that are actually denatured pathogens, right? We've probably all had some at one point in our lives, administered to ourselves. So anywho's, they put this bactrim in the queen candy, and then the workers uptake it, and then they feed it to the queen in the queen cage, and then it moves through the queen's system and into the ovaries, into the eggs. So when she lays an egg and the egg ecloses, the egg hatches, or when the egg changes to the very young larva, the larva's immune system is triggered. Remember, we talked about the susceptibility, that less than about 2.5 days of susceptibility. That's the window of protection that you got to have. Past 2.5 days, the spores are not going to infect the larva. So it protects them during that brief few-day window. So I don't know, I don't know a real lot about bees' immune defenses and stuff. But of course, with any immune system, the immune system has to detect it and then it has to respond to it. And so Dallin is claiming that, yeah, in their lab tests, it's working. However, there's another document that was done independently, and so there's really some doubts right now about its efficacy. But it's really neat, and it's exciting to think that this may prove to be beneficial, because it would also work for other pathogens. Right? The same composition delivery system. But of course, if you mix it into the queen candy, how much did the workers actually feed the queen? Did she really get enough? And there's still quite a few questions that are being asked, and that's right. We should question the science and see what we think. But that, in a nutshell, is how the vaccine works. And it's it's a little pricey, so there's going to be some price pressure also. And then you got to think too that, well, if you're doing molecular analysis for AFB detection, well, now you had a vaccinated colony, they all may test positive, right? Just based on molecular analysis, even though there's nothing infectious. I don't know. Those are all questions that are being batted around, talked about. So that's about all I have, but I'll take other questions, anything at all while I'm on the call with you folks. Be glad to field anything that you'd like.
Hey, Dave, can you do a shout out for registering your hives?
Yeah, sure. Hive registration in the state of New Hampshire is voluntary. Why would you want to go through the effort to get the form printed out, fill it out, and get a stamp and send it to us? Because if we find something in your locale that could impact your colonies, we'll let you know. The pesticide division uses it also. If the one AFB case, the last AFB case that we had was in New Boston. So we took a map and drew a radius of about 5 miles, and we went to the database and we found all the beekeepers that were in that circle and called them. I gave every one of them a phone call and told them what was going on, and just said they should be aware that it's in the locale. Fortunately, there was no other reports. So, and in that particular case, the infection came from Vermont into New Hampshire, and nukes that were purchased. Comb, right? Used comb.
Dave, can you put in the chat how people can get a hold of you?
Oh,
if they
sure.
need to?
Or yeah, sure. And yeah, this so I'll give you my there's my email. There's my mobile. And then here is Pierre's number. Let me just find her. 603.
And maybe explain who Piera is. I know you've mentioned her a couple of times.
67. Yeah, 6784. So Pierre is the state entomologist. the apiary in New Hampshire. So you have Dave as the inspector. Dorinda's a consultant to apiary. So Dorinda travels with me. Dorinda's in on the calls. It's really great to have someone else hearing what the beekeeper's saying, another set of eyes. It's hugely valuable. But behind the scenes, we have 3 entomologists, bee and bug experts. Pierre is the state entomologist. She's the director of the division, the plant industry. Chris Rollis is an entomologist. He's the survey coordinator. So he's surveying insects across the state every year. And then Morgan Doobie is also an entomologist. So we have some depth. And when we need to, we can bring all the resources to bear to help the beekeepers. So Piera, the formal way, like if you want an inspection and you want to get a certificate, you'd contact Piera and say, I'm having an issue, or I'd just like to talk to the apiary inspector. You may have an issue or not, whatever. I'd like to talk to Dave. I have some questions. That's all you have to say. And then Piera will log it. She'll push it off to me, and then we'll talk. And so
Great.
if you're going to move bees across state lines, then contact Dave. If you want to consult on your apiaries or your situation, anything, what are some of the calls I'm getting here? There's a volunteer at the school system, primary school down in Nashua, and so she had a bumblebee nest in the custodian storage building. So she was wondering how she might manage that. So we get all kinds of calls. We've gotten calls from landowners, and they were concerned that they had requests from beekeepers wanting to put bees on the land, and they were concerned about the impact of the native pollinators. I mean, we get calls with concerns about pesticide applicant. It's all over the place, but primarily what we're getting is beekeepers and assistance with brood maladies or dead out colonies. That's the primary stuff that we've dealt with this year. We get some calls for certificates of inspection. Primarily this year, it's been dead outs, and it's winding down. It's seasonal. Pardon me. Spring and fall, more in the spring than the fall.
Well, thank you. Thank you both for your time and your knowledge this evening. Does anybody else have any questions? I know it was a lot to take in.
Can I just make a point that don't be afraid to call the state agriculture department. They are there to help you. They're really friendly and approachable. Just don't feel like you're wasting their time. They're really here to help you. So, and we're lucky to have them.
I have one quick question. So I had thought that if American foul brood comes into your hive, it's a done deal. Like it's infected your hive and they're done. But is that not the case? That if you have a healthy hive, that they could overcome it?
If we detect it, it's probably a done deal. But with a very big populous hive, you may not detect it, right? They may remove it very quickly. You may never see it.
Okay.
Right. But if we detect it, then we have to act on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. A little bit of business housekeeping this evening. We have to decide in the next couple of months how we're going to continue to meet, because our old host, the Rocks Estate, is going to be opening up their newly renovated tool barn. So we're pretty excited about that. So we have the opportunity to meet back at the Rocks Estate again, like we used to. And once that construction is done, we'd be able to move the hives back there to have our North Country apiary there again. The platform and the electric fence are still there. We moved the hives out of there during construction, just because we didn't want the bees going crazy with all the guys working. So we'll probably wait until the spring to move them back, because it looks like it's going to be the fall before that barn is ready. But we need to decide if we're going to meet back there. They've offered it to us again. We can have it on Sunday evenings again. So food for thought. I wanted to throw it out there so people will know what's going on down the road. But I'd like to be able to give them an answer so they can book those dates for us. Does anybody else have anything to bring to the table tonight? Yes, Kate.
Would those meetings be hybrid meetings, Zoom
Yes.
plus
Yeah.
in person?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We can do it. They're going to be totally fiber Wi-Fi, so we'll be able to do that.
Right.
I've already checked on that part.
I think you could probably take a vote right now.
Well, we could, but we don't have a good number of our, I thought I'd send a Survey Monkey out only because I don't have all of our members here, and I feel like we need to do that appropriately. So, but I wanted to throw it out there. Nobody else? Okay. Does anybody
Wait,
have anything they want
Janice.
to talk about their hives?
Janice, can you tell them about Musterfield and everyone's invited?
Yes, the last Saturday in July, just before EAS, New Hampshire Beekeepers is having their summer picnic, the summer meeting picnic. It is free this time, so it's nice. They're having a New Hampshire Food Banks. What is it? Just a truck that
They have a food truck. They run a culinary school to teach young people how to get into the culinary field. But they have a food truck, and they're going to come and do the barbecue for us, so we don't have to, and we can all enjoy each other's company. And you don't have to be a member of New Hampshire Beekeepers. We're opening it to everyone, because we're pretty sure you'll want to join after you come to the event. So, but they're going to have both vegetarian and non-vegetarian fare, and I believe we also have the option for gluten-free buns. So we're trying to get everybody covered in that respect, and we're only asking you need to bring a comfortable chair to sit in, like a lawn chair. And what else? A dessert if you want to make it. And also we will have Sam Comfort from side dish. Thanks, Starja. Sam Comfort from Anarchy Apiaries is going to come and talk about, Starja knows better how to describe it than I do, but he makes these little tiny box hives.
Yeah,
And,
they're called comfort hives.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's a fun event. It's a place to go to that, we go places and we end up talking beekeeping to anybody that will listen. And this is a place that everybody is talking beekeeping. So it's fun. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. There is a smoker
beautiful Saturday.
contest. there is a smoker contest and there'll be guidelines on the event page on Facebook too for that. We've got to
And the
get.
Farm
those rules.
Museum. It's at the Musterfield Farm Museum, so that it's absolutely gorgeous there.
In-
Rain or shine, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's in
Do you
North
know what
Sutton,
time? You know what times it's gonna be?
10 to 2, Brenda.
Well,
Thank-
or until the smoker contest is over. One time it went till 7. I don't think we're gonna.
Well, they
do it.
started it late.
That's true.
We're starting it in the morning, so
You have to be there at 10 because that's when they're gonna start the smoker
the
contest.
smoker, yeah, yeah. So,
Hello,
And I
guys.
know it's far for you guys, but it'll be worth it. You'll really enjoy yourselves. You can
if
probably
people
carpool
want to
up
go
there.
to, we, connect and carpool. Do that. And I know there's people from your area that'll be there, Sam.
It's in my calendar. I plan on going. I'm excited about it.
And then in October is the New Hampshire Beekeepers Fall Meeting. October 19th, I believe is that date.
I think it's the 21st.
Or is it 21st? Okay. It's a Saturday.
And it's at the Rockingham Ballroom with the disco ball.
Do you have anything to add, Joe? No? Okay.
Hey, I just had a quick question for you guys. I'm new to the B group, and I was just wondering if I could get a little history on what everybody has or how many hives people are running. Are these larger apiaries, or are there the 1 or 2 hive apiaries?
And who are we speaking to?
It's gonna be Lou. I don't know how to turn on my video camera. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
Welcome.
Really, we have a little representation from different parts of the state here tonight. I'm in Whitefield and I'm considered a sideliner. I'm not a backyard hobbyist. Mary Ellen,
Yeah, I have, well, I'm less than a sideliner. What's that? What is there less than sideliner? Not
Isn't it
quite.
just hobbyist?
Well, yeah, well, not
Isn't
quite.
that like-
Because I have like 25 hives at the
Hmm.
moment with many queens cooking. So
We can call you a mini or a micro sideliner.
I'm a micro sideline. I'm an artisanal sideliner.
How about just a crazy hobbyist like me?
There's
I'm
that.
I'm not a side.
We're all crazy though.
Right.
We're
There-
beginners and we just have 1 hive.
There you go.
Yeah, there are those of us on the call that just have, depending on how good the winter was, 1 to 3 hives. I had a good winter. I have 3 hives.
I don't have any hives yet. Next year, I'm learning everything I can learn.
Star's just giving you a good clap.
Yep. Well, it's Lou, it's such a, our members are pretty diverse. I mean, North Country Beekeepers usually covers the spectrum of everything above the notch in the state of New Hampshire. Plus we do the Northeast Kingdom in Vermont. We have people here that have 1 or 2 hives in their backyard. And then we have people that have over 500 hives. So it's kind of a nice eclectic mix of beginners, intermediates, master beekeepers, people who are doing it for the love of the bees, people that are doing it for honey, because they love the fresh honey in their own homestead, and people who are doing it commercially. So it's kind of a great mix of everybody. So welcome aboard. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm very looking forward to all the information you guys will provide.
We all started like you. Just remember that.
Thank you. It's been a fun trip and I plan to keep going with it, but there's always something more to learn.
I'm never bored. Is anyone else ever bored with their bees? They always keep you on your toes.
Yeah, there's no such thing being bored.
It's always something new. Hey, I have to share that I had with the bad, I had the treat of watching the local bear actually be trained on my electric fence. Just happened to be looking out the window the week before. Somebody had helped me with the hives and knocked the ground wire off the charger. So even though the fence looked like it was hooked up, I hadn't tested it and it was not live. And I bait my fence with bacon strips to train the bears. Well, that was like free bacon and honey for dessert. You know, he he had the bacon and then he did knock over a hive, but couldn't get in because I had it ratchet strapped. So I went out, we got the hives up and figured out what was wrong with the fence and left it. Well, of course, he came back for more bacon with honey, you know, and we happened to be watching him reach his nose out to have the main course, the bacon, and he definitely had a different experience the second time around. So it was fun to watch him take off for the woods.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
I bet you wish you had a video, Kate.
Oh, I wish we had. Yeah, I only have a photo of the hive down, but you know, who would know that we would be looking out the window at that particular minute when he put his nose on the bacon.
But this is why ratchet straps are so important.
That's why ratchet straps, because stuff happens, right? You have this wonderful.
Darcia says Kate 1, Bear 0. Oh, well, that was a happy ending anyway, that you were able to salvage that. So, well, I'm going to let everybody go. We
Thank
kind
you.
of,
Thank you very much.
Thank
hey,
you. Good
Jim, you
night.
take it easy.
I will.
Great to see familiar faces and nice to see new names here too. So, all right, everyone, take care.
Take care.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night.